Something truly spectacular is happening right now in eastern France. If you haven't been following along, you are genuinely missing out on one of the most gripping narratives in modern tennis. A 20-year-old phenom from the Philippines recently stepped onto the clay courts of a historic European tournament, and the entire city of Strasbourg felt the impact. Not as a figure of speech, and certainly not as internet hyperbole. The tournament director extended the tournament draw wider than he has in over 15 years of managing this event. The driving force behind that decision was one name: Alexandra Eala. Let that sink in for a moment. This is an organizer who has hosted Grand Slam winners, a leader who has welcomed the biggest icons in women's tennis to these exact courts year after year. Yet, something about this particular 20-year-old, something about the momentum she carries into every city she visits, prompted him to do something unprecedented. That fact alone tells you everything you need to know about the trajectory of this journey. But let's not sprint ahead, because this narrative deserves to be delivered properly from its origins, carrying the true weight it possesses. Denis Naygelin is not a man who offers grand gestures lightly. He is a former professional player himself, raised in the Alsace region of France, a competitor who grew up breathing the red clay dust that blankets every court in this part of Europe. When the Strasbourg tournament faced potential collapse back in 2009, when the entire event was about to quietly fade from the tennis calendar, it was Naygelin who refused to let it die. He intervened through his company, fought for the city, championed these courts, and transformed what might have been a forgotten regional stop into a legitimate WTA 500 tournament, one of the most respected pre-Roland Garros destinations on the entire women's tour. For over 15 years, he has poured his energy into making Strasbourg a premier destination. Competitors travel here not simply to play, but to prepare, to establish rhythm, and to rediscover their form on French clay before the ultimate clay court test on earth begins just down the road. Naygelin understands what this event means to the field, and he understands what specific athletes mean to the event. When he discusses the vibrant energy that Alex Eala generates, you have to pay close attention because this isn't corporate marketing. This is an expert who has honestly never witnessed anything quite like this before. So, what constitutes the Eala effect? Let's be precise, because it stretches far beyond the boundaries of tennis. When Alexandra Eala enters a tournament bracket, she doesn't arrive as a solitary athlete. She carries the hopes of an entire nation with her. The Philippines, a country of over 110 million citizens spread across more than 7,000 islands, stands unified by a deep love for sports and a collective desire to see one of their own excel at the absolute pinnacle of competition. Filipino supporters are not passive observers. They aren't the type to simply check a highlight package the following day. These are dedicated fans who set alarms for 3 a.m., followers who stream matches on mobile screens during lunch breaks via spotty connections. In rural provinces where internet coverage drops mid-rally, they tune in regardless. Every single time, they overwhelm comment sections and push her name to global social media trends effortlessly. They transform a WTA 500 tournament in eastern France into a central national topic back home as naturally as drawing breath. Individuals who had never even heard of the Strasbourg Open prior to this week are suddenly tracking it down, finding digital streams, and analyzing the bracket. That is not standard. That does not occur for typical competitors, even highly skilled ones. That represents something else entirely. Naygelin's organizational team has observed this phenomenon unfold in real time, watching digital search metrics spike, seeing social media engagement multiply, and realizing instantly that Alexandra Eala isn't merely a tennis player passing through their town. She is a cultural event. But here is the element that becomes truly fascinating, the factor that elevates this beyond a tale of fan dedication and national identity. The tennis itself is genuinely thrilling. At just 20 years old, Alex Eala is already entrenched inside the global top 40. She is a product of the Rafa Nadal Academy in Mallorca, Spain, meaning she mastered her skills on clay, the exact red dirt that molded one of the greatest champions the sport has ever seen. She integrated those lessons early, structured her game upon that foundation, and cultivated a tactical style that matches the slower, grueling, more athletic demands of clay court tennis. However, an honest gap exists, one worth recognizing, between training on clay as a junior and battling on clay as a professional against the premier athletes on the globe. That margin is substantial, and Eala has dedicated this entire clay swing to erasing it. She commenced her journey in Linz, then progressed through Stuttgart and Madrid, with each destination teaching her fresh lessons and each match adding another dimension of tactical execution to her game on this surface. You could observe her growth over those weeks if you tracked her closely. The way she began structuring points with greater patience, extending rallies, capitalizing on the high bounce to unleash her forehand, and trusting her movement in ways she hadn't quite mastered earlier in the season. Then came Rome, the Italian Open, one of the crown jewels of the clay season, an event that functions as a direct dress rehearsal for Roland Garros for everyone in the field. In Rome, the pieces clicked. Eala surged forward to reach the third round, defeating high-quality adversaries along the way before encountering Elena Rybakina, the world number 2, a competitor possessing one of the most devastating power games in women's tennis. She dropped that contest, but she never looked out of her element. She did not resemble someone who drifted into a marquee matchup by chance. She looked like an athlete who belongs, who is still maturing but adapting rapidly, and who possesses the weapons and mindset to challenge this elite level consistently. That realization carries immense weight. A different version of that Roman campaign might have dented her self-belief. Instead, it appears to have achieved the exact opposite. She emerged from it confirming something she might have only tentatively believed previously. Clay is becoming her signature surface. She articulated as much herself, explaining how every professional clay tournament has provided its own unique education. How growing up on the surface is one thing, but battling at this elite tier on it is a completely distinct reality. There is a maturity in how she reviews her progression that is remarkable for an athlete her age. She isn't claiming the surface has always been simple for her, nor is she fabricating a perfect narrative. She is openly stating, "I am solving the puzzle. I know I can perform well, and I am thrilled to see how far this path goes." That level of sincerity, paired with the on-court results she has delivered, is precisely why the upcoming fortnight is so captivating to observe. When you examine the timeline, it feels almost poetic in its scheduling. The Strasbourg Open stretches from May 17th through May 23rd, while Roland Garros, the French Open, commences on May 24th. A single day divides the conclusion of one event from the beginning of the other. The environmental conditions in Strasbourg, the French clay, the European air, the precise manner in which the tennis ball rises off the dirt, are as close to Roland Garros as a player can experience without actually stepping inside the historic gates of Stade Roland Garros. Every single match Eala contests here serves as a perfect simulation. Every point she contests, every grueling third set, every instance where she must dig deep to discover an extra gear, all of it directly fuels her preparation for the grandest clay stage on earth. Strasbourg isn't a warm-up in some trivial sense of the word. Strasbourg represents the final preparation before the most crucial exam of her year, and she has already secured her spot in that test. Alexandra Eala is featured in the Roland Garros main draw, not via a wildcard invitation, and not as a lucky loser slipping through the qualifying rounds on an advantageous day. She qualified entirely on ranking merit, meaning the tennis hierarchy evaluated her results, measured her stability across the season, and validated that she deserves to stand among the top 128 women globally competing at the French Open. That represents an incredibly significant milestone. At 20 years old, in what is only her 5th career professional clay court event, she has earned the privilege to step onto court Philippe Chatrier or court Suzanne Lenglen, the very same stages where Serena Williams, Steffi Graf, and Justine Henin etched their names into sporting immortality. The scale of that achievement shouldn't be minimized, yet earning a position and knowing how to capitalize on it remain two different challenges. Roland Garros demands intense competitive sharpness, specific clay court rhythm, and the capacity to maintain elite physical output through long exchanges on heavy courts when your legs begin questioning what your brain is demanding of them. You cannot enter freezing cold and hope to excel. You require live reps. You need the deep-seated muscle memory of intense matches on this surface guiding your body when conditions become grueling. Strasbourg provides her with exactly that advantage. Every round she navigates here, every rival she encounters, every instance where she must untangle a complex tactical dilemma on clay adds value to her competitive reservoir. She will arrive in Paris not simply recovered and prepared from a practice perspective, but battle-hardened, clay-tuned, and self-assured in the unique way that only genuine match victories can foster.